he killed over 200 people. He's like, he was adopted. So, they sort of took that opportunity to soften it with a little bit of humor there.
Right.
Um, and that's something Joss Whedon just does well. This was not his movie, obviously,
Right.
but they still managed to keep, sufficient humor throughout the thing. Um, Although I did find it funny when they're walking through that tunnel, and Thor was like, "Why are there so many shoes here?"
Yeah, but a lot of the humor in this one comes from Loki, who, I think that was one of the really good things in this movie was Tom Hiddleston was able to bring humor to that character, and of course he's a dark character and he's still a very dark character in this movie.
Yeah.
But the whole scene when they're escaping the trying to break out of Asgard and they're walking down the aisle and he keeps changing into different people.
Yeah.
Just like, it's funny because my wife, I will admit she dozed off during the movie.
Oh, jeez.
And just for a little bit and woke up with that scene. And so afterwards she was like, how did that fit in with the rest of the movie? And then I explained, Loki can change his appearance and whatnot. She's like, oh, okay. And then she's like, I just liked seeing Chris Evans.
Yeah. Well, that was great because it was for them to use that excuse to have Chris Evans show up, for this brief little bit in the movie, but he's basically playing Loki playing himself, and that was pretty humorous.
Yes. John, you've gotten quiet.
Oh, I'm
He fell into a database.
No. I liked it. I mean, I liked. I think there was enough humor there. In fact, I think this is one of the few movies that you could go full on Mystery Science Theater 3000 on and not have a problem coming with the lines, which is what happened with me and the friend that I went with. And I think we annoyed the people in front of us. But
there was no one in front of us. But it was a pretty empty. I was surprised actually at how few people were in the theater when we went to see it.
Yeah, we went to. Well, I don't know. We went to see a matinee at 2:20, which of course 2:20 and 2:45. We finally got through the previews, so 25 minutes of previews is even if that one of the previews was Captain America beating the crap out of a bunch of people in an elevator.
Yeah, that was worth it.
Yeah, I know. If they'd only changed that elevator music, he might have a little less rage. But anyway, so it was there was maybe 15 people in the theater. I went to the 3D version, and again matinee on a Saturday. So
yeah, we saw a mid-afternoon, like maybe 4:20 on a Saturday, and yeah, there was probably about 10 to 15 people in the theater. It was pretty empty.
Well, it's made, according to Box Office Mojo, at this point, which is Sunday in its first full week of release, it's made $479 million so far worldwide. So, they made the money back on it. So we'll get a Thor 3.
So basically, you're saying more than the six of us. There was more than the 6 tickets bought between us.
Yes.
A few more, at least.
At least a few more.
Well, at least they've covered the CGI of his.
Expensive.
Yeah. At least they've covered the CGI of his abs.
Yes. Abs.
That takes a lot of money.
Oh, that was the other scene when he's bathing himself off in the fountain.
Yeah.
My wife went, I'm like,
See, my wife enjoys him in the movie, but she enjoys Tom Hiddleston just as much.
Now that I think about it, there were more teenage girls in that theater than there were geek guys. So,
yeah.
Gee, I wonder what the target audience of this was.
But, I have to say that one of the small throwaway scenes that I really, really enjoyed was when towards the end when they're battling in Greenwich or whatever, and specifically Darcy and Ian the intern were running around trying to just avoid capture or being caught in the fray. And when Ian picks up that floating car and slams it down on top of a bunch of guys.
Right.
That was just a great scene, especially with the teleported kiss right after.
Right. Yes. That was, you know, and that was another good area for the humor in this movie was the intern's intern.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So.
What about what about the poor Hammer trying to catch back up to Thor after going through all of those
that was
grifts?
pretty funny with all the Hammer kept trying to find his way, and yet he kept bouncing across the universe.
Oh wait, no. Talk about throwaway scenes when they come into Jane's apartment, and she hangs up her coat, and he hangs up his hammer.
Yeah.
That was
great.
Yeah.
Now, was I the only one who thought, okay, you know, considering how heavy the hammer is supposed to be when he's not holding it, do you think that's going to rip the hooks right off the wall, drop through the floor, and hit the ground somewhere?
But it's a mystical thing. Well,
yeah,
mystical in that it's advanced science. So it's not literally heavy. But,
All right. See, you just brought something up.
Huh.
And being that this is a geek show,
goodness.
I mean, come on, they take so much time in the first movie to show that no one can pull that hammer out of that giant pit in the ground. No one can touch it or move it.
Right.
And then he easily just hangs it on there. Now you can argue that, oh well, because he placed it there, that's why it stayed there. But to me, then that's magic. That's not science.
Well.
And
any
advanced
magic
enough science can
yes,
be
exactly.
indistinguishable from magic.
Was that Asimov or was that?
I forget what the original source for that was, but it was quoted in the last Thor movie, you know, to sort of be the catch-all for these types of things. But yeah, it's clearly you can't give a lot of credence to the quote-unquote weight of the hammer because it doesn't have a set weight per se. It's variable. It's a variable density material. Because, you know, obviously he can pick it up without any difficulty. Not only can he pick it up, he can throw it a great distance, probably farther than you could throw other things.
Right.
And it can fly through the air. It can fly him through the air. So it's not necessarily heavy or light, per se.
Because it's magic. It's a mystical hammer.
It's imbued with some sort of quantum mechanical abilities.
I just think it's so weird that they've gone out of their way to say that it's not, they're not gods and it's not magic, it's science in both movies. It's like,
yeah,
you don't have to beat us over the head with it. I mean,
I don't think they're beating us over the head with it. I did enjoy the Natalie Portman scene with the whole, like, you know, quantum whatever drive thing. I forget I can't even remember what she said now. Yesterday I would have remembered when I was not having a caffeine headache.
Right. When she talked, she said it was a quantum drive, and they're like, "Oh, it's this
quantum field generator."
Quantum field generator.
Yeah.
And they're like, soul engine or whatever they called it.
And she goes, "Does it do this, and this?" Yeah, quantum field generator.
And the nurses look at her like, "What the hell?"
Right.
Tomato.
Yeah.
Let's call the whole thing off.
So we've spent 27 minutes talking about this, and we really haven't talked that much about Loki, except for that one scene. But he really made this movie. Like, he was the star of this movie, I think.
Yeah, which I will say, to me, it was great, and I enjoyed it, but it also hurt the fact that it's like, you know, not Tom Hiddleston, the other guy, Chris Hemsworth. It's like, yeah, you look like Thor, you're a big, strong guy, but if you kind of feel like he does dark and brooding, and that's about it.
Yeah.
You know, which, you know, which again works for Thor, but there's not a lot of there doesn't need to
there's
be
not a lot of range. Is what
yeah,
you're saying.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's not a range. There's not a lot of depth in that character. They put all the depth into Loki, and it's like,
well, I don't think they put all the depth into Loki. Loki is that's just what Loki is.
yeah,
Like, and I think really it's not so much him as it is the actor who plays him. Tom Hiddleston plays that role so masterfully that it's just, he's going to steal whatever scenes he's in, no matter how many lines he has. And you know, Chris Hemsworth is Thor. He plays that part well. But you put these two characters together, no matter how no matter what they're doing, Loki is going to be a more interesting character every time.
true.
That's right, kids. So just remember, if you want to be more interesting, be a bad guy.
I'm not even saying because of that. He will definitely be the bad guy some of the time, but it's just he's just a more interesting character. Period.
Well,
Thor is Thor is a fairly simple character.
the villains are always the more interesting characters. You look at any actor, and they'll tell you that they enjoy playing the villains because they enjoy the complexity and the funness of being the villain.
Yeah.
And who has a little dog?
Not me.
That would be me.
Okay.
Is it Shecky?
No, it's just a little ankle biter. But what about we could go on and on and on about how Loki is great and how he's awesome and how all kids should emulate him and
right.
No, that'd probably be bad.
We'll talk about it more when they make the Loki movie.
Yeah, well, that's coming. I mean, come on. I mean, he's well, you saw the ending.
Yeah.
But what about Odin's wife dying? What about? I mean,
yeah, that is kind of a big thing. That took me by surprise that she would actually end up getting killed in the storyline.
My problem is it didn't take me by surprise because it's such a trope. Oh, we have a tertiary character here. Let's kill him to make sure everybody knows that this stuff is getting real now. Why you didn't have to kill her? Why? What? It didn't advance the plot. She didn't gain anything by it, really. I mean,
yeah.
And all you've done now is make Odin really sad.
Right. Speaking of Odin, and yeah, I agree. I don't think she needed to die. You're right. They could have, and especially if she could have pulled that trick with Jane Foster being a hologram, why couldn't she have also been?
Exactly.
But anyway, the end scene. So what do we project the state is for Odin at that point? Because I didn't necessarily gather that he's dead per se. I don't know if what they were trying to project for that when Loki turned out to be the one sitting on the throne there. Do you think it was just taking advantage of Odin temporarily not being at the throne?
No.
Or that Loki dispatched of him somehow?
Well go ahead.
All right. Quickly, from past, storylines, if I understand correctly, Odin is attached to Yggdrasil, and which is where he gets most of his power, and so Loki couldn't have killed him, so he's probably got him holed up somewhere, draining him, which has been a past storyline for Loki trying to take the crown. So,
right.
That's probably they might go with that. Or who knows? They might come up with something other weird. But that's what I think.
Well, I mean, if we just go by the movie mythology that they're setting up for the Marvel movie universe, in the first movie, he couldn't take over Asgard unless Odin was in his Odin sleep, because Odin was too powerful for Loki to take over. So,
right.
So it's like, well, then obviously
he sang him a lullaby, right?
Well, I don't know. Could he force him into his Odin sleep? We don't know. We just know that we know he was the guard that showed up and said that Loki was dead.
Yeah.
And then the next thing we know is Thor is talking to his father at the end of the movie, but then his father turns out to be Loki. So we know that Odin went off with Loki. What happened to him? That's what was left up in the air.
What I'd like to know is what happened to Thor's ability to sense that he was using his glamours again. Because I mean, the first two times, it's like, oh, okay, Loki, that's enough. That's fine. Very funny. Okay, stop with the glamour, and now he didn't see anything wrong with or Odin. Odin didn't see anything wrong with the guy, the soldier that came back from the Dark World. I mean,
well. Again, Thor is not necessarily the brightest bulb in the bunch. And so I think when he saw through it before, it's because he knew he was approaching Loki. He knew that that's, what he was walking into or up against. By the end of the movie, he wouldn't have suspected that because he would have taken at face value that his brother died on the battlefield. And wouldn't have suspected that somehow that was a ruse as well that he walked away from.
True, But no, but again, when they specifically showed him in the prison and